Jana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmalatam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master has kindly opened my eyes with the shining torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances to his lotus feet. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Mm.
Hey, I'm not feeling very well at the moment, so if I do leave early or anything, it's just because I'm not feeling that well.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
bummer.
yeah,
Sorry
yeah.
to hear that. Mm.
Okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
can only concentrate for so long at the moment, and then my mind just goes like, but
Oh,
yeah, hopefully I can
yeah,
get
sure
through
thing.
get through the class. Yeah,
Something that
yeah,
might help is have a little nap in the middle of the day, like a siesta kind of thing, to break
yeah.
up the day a bit because the whole day is quite long, as you know. So
Well,
could have a
well,
little nap in
my doctor's just put me on this drug called temazepam, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but they give it to you to sleep because I wasn't sleeping.
yeah,
I was up all night,
yeah.
or like from 1 o'clock in the morning all night. So, but the downside is like I finally slept last night,
Yeah.
but it makes you tired during the day.
Oh, bugger. Mm.
So,
Oh
but
no.
I wasn't able to sleep. Um, I need to try and get back into a sleep cycle where I sleep.
Yeah, for sure.
But, otherwise it just stuffs you up. Yeah, and then you fall asleep at like 11 o'clock in the day or something, and then you sleep till 4, and then you can't sleep that night
Yeah, no,
again.
that's no
So
good. No, I was meaning like a
yeah,
little power nap, like half an hour
yeah,
sort of thing after lunch or something. But
yeah.
you got to set your alarm so that you get up after that half an hour because if it goes on for 2, 3, 4 hours, you won't sleep at night. Yeah. Well, I hope you get that sorted out soon.
But it
That's
makes you
essential.
really like makes you more tired, like mentally tired.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Okay, you take care. Mm. Okay, so we're continuing our reading of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge, text number 21. Mm. Text number 21. Mm. So those, what were last week, just a little recap. Last week we talked about those that basically worship the demigods. They worship the demigods, and their aim, their purpose is to take birth in heaven. But as we explained, that's just a temporary benefit because you're going to live there for 10,000 years, and you're still going to have to come back down to this earthly planet. And so it doesn't really help. It's not a permanent solution. It's just a quick fix. So we're just recapping on last week, Gulshan, that talking about worshipping the demigods, studying the Vedas, drinking soma juice, and taking birth on the heavenly planets. But we were explaining also that that is the real process for interplanetary travel, because there are people, of course, that want to go to the moon or Mars or whatever, but that's not the proper process. Is to create a rocket ship, a spaceship, and go there. That's not going to work. And the real process is to worship the demigods by performing the proper sacrifices for these demigods that are given in the Vedas. There's descriptions of these different sacrifices for the moon god and the sun god and Indra, the king of heaven, and so forth. And if you do those sacrifices properly, then when you die, you can take birth on those particular planets. But yeah, we're not recommending that though, because like I said, it's all temporary. There's temporary benefits, and that's what it's going to say in this verse, text 21, the downside of it, the downside of going to heaven. So Krishna's trying to encourage us to just worship him, because we tend to worship every Tom, Dick, and Harry, for some temporary material benefit. Prabhupada explains even in the Second World War, people would worship Hitler. They worship Hitler to get some, economic benefits like that, Like if you happen to run a weapons manufacturing plant, then you'd love someone like Hitler or these generals or whatever like that, because you're making a lot of money, because of the war. Then you can sell so many guns and bombs and missiles and stuff like that. So, and some people worship ghosts. Some people worship ghosts to get powers, dark kind of evil powers and things like that. So some people worship ancestors. So here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's trying to say, better to worship me and come back home back to Godhead. You'll get eternal blissful life rather than just some other worshipping other persons that just give temporary benefits. It just has a beginning and an end. So why go down a path where it's just going to have a beginning and end? Because what we want a happiness that doesn't come to an end. We want a happiness that just keeps on going. And that's only with Krishna and going to the spiritual world is going to achieve that purpose. Anything else in the material, doesn't matter right from the very top to the bottom, it's all temporary places of misery. That is the problem. That is the problem.
I think I remember when Deepa came to the classes, when we first met Deepa, her family used to worship Durga. So that was something that was passed down through the family as well.
Yep.
And her mother worshipped Durga. And so she was very attached to that worship. So that was hard for her to give up to change the perspective, because she'd worshipped that day for so long as well. I remember that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you brought up. I mean, Prabhupada mentioned actually it can be easier, this path of Krishna consciousness, for a Westerner in some cases, because they're like a blank slate. See, we don't know anything. We're just so ignorant, right? So we just accept, whatever's given to us. Whereas if someone like generally a Hindu, they think they know something, about demigods and so forth, whatever. They know who God is. God is Shiva, or God is Brahma, or God is Ganesh, or whatever. So they're very attached, like you said, very attached to something.
What's text that? Can you see the Deepa's text just right now?
Yeah, I just sent it.
Is she trying to get in, is she?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I see it.
Isn't that amazing?
Okay, we'll let her in. Good spotting.
Oh, my God, I say her name and she appears.
Well, you should tell her. You should tell her that.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, Hare Krishna. Gulshan just told me, hey, Deepa's waiting to be let in. And then I saw her, yeah. And you wouldn't believe it, Deepa. Tell her, Bhakti Mala.
Oh, I just said your name and then you appeared.
Oh my God.
That's incredible. You're going to live a long life. There's a saying, if you talk about someone, they appear, they're going to live a long life.
As
so
long
there you
as
go,
it's
Deepa.
healthy and, it's fine. Able and healthy. And then I don't mind. But hey,
yeah,
I probably need a lot of time, to catch up on all the chanting that I'm behind on. So, yep.
Nice. So what was, I'll tell you the context, Deepa, that because what we're reading from is 9th chapter, text 20 was last week, 21 is this week, and it's talking about worshipping the demigods. And Bhakti Mala mentioned that you come from a background where your family worship Durga. Is that correct?
My mum was, quite devotee, yes, of Durga.
Yeah. So then she brought up your name, that talking about how you come from that background, your family ancestry, and worshipping Durga. And what I was saying was that Prabhupada had mentioned that it can be easier for Westerners to take up Krishna consciousness in many cases, because we're like a blank slate, we're completely ignorant. We don't know anything. Whereas someone coming from a sort of cultured background of like Hindu or whatever, there's a lot of things they think they know. They think they know that Durga's God or Shiva's God or whatever, so it can be harder for them to give up what they think they know and accept, Krishna consciousness wholeheartedly because of the attachments to so many other things. Whereas, they might be worshipping ancestors or ghosts or demigods or so many things, different people, different cultures. Even like Buddhists, right? It'd be hard for them to take to this Krishna consciousness because they worship ancestors. They'll worship ancestors and things like that. So, but for us, atheistic Westerners, it's very easy because we're
Yeah.
like completely blank.
I
like
wasn't
that.
saying it in a bad way, Deepa. I wasn't
Oh, no,
saying it in
no,
a bad
it's
way. No, I
no.
remembered how attached you were in a nice way to that service
No,
of the
but
yeah.
Durga, and I'm here in the beginning when the conversation that we had, I was and I was telling you how I was because when we moved to Australia, and then I was searching, like trying to find for some spiritual something, and then I got directed or pointed. I stumbled upon this Shanti Harmony Center, and Shanti Harmony Center, so it's pretty much it's Durga, Shakti Durga, and all that. And I was going there, and because of my involvement there, I started volunteering in some capacity there. And one day I was going to do my service, volunteer service, and I was going there, and there was a car accident. There was a car accident. I dropped my kids to school, and then I was going, and then so I got in an accident, and after that, my husband, Ben said to me, I think you don't have to go so far anymore, because it is in Kurandong, which is about 45 to 1 hour away from here, drive every day, one way. So he said, no need to go so far. And we, so that was kind of being discussed. And then we were driving out one day, and then we saw, hey, look, there's that look, have you noticed that vegan place? We never tried that before. And we went, so that was the Bhakti tree. And then, so from one thing to another, and I started to get in, involved here with Krishna consciousness. And you told me, when I told you that story, you said that Durga, that's her role, that if she sees that someone, she flicks people off to Krishna if she deems it appropriate. So so that was what I heard from you.
Yes, that's a fact. That's a fact. And there is a legitimate reason that a devotee can still approach the demigods, and that is to request, help from the demigods to advance in our Krishna consciousness. So it's not that we completely have to cut off from everyone else except from Krishna, but just we want to make Krishna the center of all the relationships. Even we have, husband, wife, kids, parents, friends, whatever. And then demigods, so many relationships, but try to put God in the center of all the relationships, and that'll make all the relationships better. Then the husband and wife relationship will improve if God's in the center. Then, between the parents and the kids, if the relationship will improve if God's in the center. And even with the demigods, we put God in the center. We know that Rukmini, she wanted to marry Krishna. She had heard about Krishna from great sages like Narada Muni, and hearing about how wonderful Krishna is, that he's so beautiful and powerful and wealthy and famous and everything, Bhagavan. then she determined that I only want to marry him, nobody else. And then she went to the family temple, which was Durga. Quite often, especially the Kshatriya, the warrior families, they would have a Durga temple. Every Kshatriya family had a Durga temple, because she is like the goddess of the material world. She's got Shakti. So if you're a fighter, you need lots of Shakti. So they would, worship Durga to get power to overcome all the enemies and so forth. And but she went for a different reason to the temple. So she went to the temple and she prayed to Durga to please give me Krishna as my husband. So that's a good reason to approach the demigods like that. And the gopis in Vrindavan, they unmarried gopis, they worshipped a particular form of Durga called Katyayani. So they worshipped Katyayani for 1 month. They fasted, they only ate unspiced khichdi for 1 month, and they were bathing in the cold water of the Yamuna every morning, and then they made a murti of Durga out of the mud and everything, and they offered flowers and food and everything, and they chanted mantras and everything for 1 month. And what was the purpose of that vrata? Vrata means a vow. So what was the purpose of their vrata? Was they all wanted the same thing. We all want Krishna as our husband. And Krishna fulfilled their desire later on, that he had the Rasa Leela with them, and so many things. And yeah, and he accepted them like that. And so yeah, so there is some reasons why, we can still have a relationship with the demigods even after becoming Krishna conscious. Actually, we're the real devotees of the demigods, because we understand what their position is, that they're servants of God, they're servants of Krishna. So our relationship with the demigods is even better than the demigod worshippers. The demigod worshippers treat them like God. They have a wrong understanding, and they really just want something from the demigod. They don't really just want to please the demigod, serve the demigod without any expectation of a return. They usually have an expectation of return, isn't it? Would you agree? Gulshan, Deepa, you come from that background. Usually there's an expectation of return, right? You go to Shiva, you go to Ganesh, you go to Durga, and you expect something back. So it's not really pure service. It's not really pure love. It's not really bhakti. Actually, the term bhakti is generally used only with Krishna. Because only with Krishna you have that concept of you just doing service for Krishna and you're not expecting anything back. You're not expecting money back, or an improvement in your happiness back, or you're not expecting to get a partner, or you're not expecting your exams to pass your exams or whatever. You're just serving him just for the sake of serving him, because he should be served. That's our duty, to serve him. And we want to develop our love for him. But
Actually, if I can just say,
say.
No, I was just reflecting and just remembering, as I mean, recall like how I observed mom and just, the elders of the family, like the aunts and the grandma and whatever. I mean, what I observed or what I understood, it's more like when they go to the temple or they praying, it is like demonstrating the like respect, like when you visit the house, yeah, so like just that respect and acknowledgement type of thing. I mean, that there might be some prayer for, like something that's troubling, that like to please help or something like this.
Right.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So not always.
I mean, yeah, that was just a little bit too sad.
Yeah, no, well, you have that background, so you know more about how it works. But of course, one can approach Krishna with some desire in mind also. It's not that you can't. But generally what the devotee realizes as the devotee becomes more advanced in Krishna consciousness is that Krishna already knows what we need. So there's no need to ask him. God is all-knowing, right? You know, he's all-knowing. He knows everything. So he's already in our heart. We know he's also in the Paramatma. He's in our heart. So he already knows what we need. He knows what we desire. There's no need to go to a temple to ask him because he already knows. What we realize is that God is automatically giving me everything I need. He's giving me the water that I need, the food that I need, the air that I need, the sunlight that I need, the relationships, the health, and everything. So everything's coming from him. So what the devotee realizes, God is giving me, Krishna's giving me so much. It's about time I give him something. So that's the bhakti, that we're thinking, what can I give to God, you know? And it's said that the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra is, "O Hare, energy of the Lord, O Krishna, Lord, you know, please engage me in your service." So we're approaching Krishna to do some service for Krishna, realizing that he's doing so much service for us. Now let us do something for him.
Can I say something?
Yep.
If Krishna knows that, but in Sudama, in Krishna's case, Sudama has to go to Krishna for help. Even he was his childhood friend. Krishna knows that he's in trouble. He needs something. His wife said, go and ask for a help. If Krishna knows that, then why does he has to go and approach it? Krishna should have to help him before even get there.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Actually, he accepted that his financial situation, whatever, was Krishna's mercy. He wasn't actually desperate to improve his financial situation, but his wife was feeling really bad that my husband is living very austere life, and she was wanting more not for herself even, but for a better life for her husband. So she was pressuring him to go. He wasn't desperate to go and ask him to fix up our problems, but she was pressuring him to go. And she was pressuring him, like I say, to give benefit to her husband also. But he took that as a good excuse to go, because he actually just wanted to see Krishna, not to even ask anything from Krishna. But it was well, this is a good excuse to go and see my dear friend, you know. So he went there, and they didn't even, and if you're going to visit someone's house, normally you take something with you to give, a gift. So they didn't even have anything to give to Krishna. So they had to beg some basic chip rice, broken rice from a neighbor. And he took that. What's that?
If he hasn't got anything, how come Krishna probably knows that? How come the Krishna didn't help him?
Okay, so we'll explain that. So anyway,
I thought that somewhere it said that he was really proud about being so renounced.
Okay,
Is that
I
true
haven't heard
or
that
not?
before. I haven't heard that.
No, I haven't
But I
heard
mean, that is actually said to be the disease of the Brahmanas, and he was a Brahmana. That's the disease. That's the disease of the Brahmanas, is they can tend to be proud of their knowledge that they have, and also the austerity that they do. But I've never heard that he was proud. He was a very advanced devotee. But I can understand it's possible, because Brahmanas, see, that's the danger. If you have a lot of knowledge, and if you think that you have a lot of knowledge, you can become proud of that, thinking that you're better than others. So that is said to be the the weakness of the mode of goodness, sattva guna, because brahmanas are in sattva guna mode of goodness. So that is the danger of the mode of goodness, is that you can think you're better than others because you have more knowledge. And when you got more knowledge, you know right from wrong, and you avoid the sinful activities. That because you avoid the sinful activities with that knowledge that you have, you also suffer a lot less. And they can tend to be proud of that we have so much knowledge, we are not suffering like that, we're happy. So that's also in the mode of goodness, you can be more happier than other people because you're not doing bad karma and you're not suffering because of that bad karma. So you'll have more material happiness, and you can tend to be quite attached to that life, that you're avoiding all the wrong things and you're happy. Oh, and I can just be comfortable. So that's a danger, that you can tend to get overly comfortable in the material world. You're a vegetarian and you don't smoke and drink and you don't gamble and you have a good life, you're healthy and
their own renunciation.
Yeah, and like that's what Bhakti Mala said. She'd heard that he was proud of his austerities.
But there's
like
a folk tale,
Hmm.
which is very
Come
popular
around this
in
side.
India.
They'll be able to hear you better.
It's very popular in India,
Mm.
which is that when they went, Sudama and Krishna got lost in the forest, right?
Yeah. She's talking about earlier in the life when they were students, and the Gurukul of Sandapani Muni. She's telling.
Yeah. So at that time, they were lost in the forest, and the Sudama actually had some chipped rice with him.
Okay.
To eat. And then Krishna asked, "Oh, give me also some." But Sudama at that time said, "Oh, it's all finished."
Okay.
So Krishna knew it's not finished, and he kept that in mind. And that's why it said that Krishna made sure that he was really impoverished in his later life.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never heard that before.
Yeah, it's quite common in South India. There's a folk tale.
Did you hear that? So that could possibly be a reason why he was so poor, because he didn't give that food item to Krishna before when he wanted it.
Know that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead or just a friend?
They didn't know that.
I would. I mean, we've been talking that on Saturdays. There's one kind of relationship with Krishna where you know that he's God, and there's another relationship where you don't know. So he was probably in that relationship that
knew that he's the Supreme Person of Godhead. He wouldn't hide it, that the rice, he said, all finished. If he knew that he's a God, he wouldn't do that. He probably wouldn't.
No, they were probably just, he was probably just thinking he's my friend. That he's
But you have to do the right thing, regardless, you have to do the right thing.
Yeah, so he might have had a bit of a lesson to learn there, and therefore he was poor like that. However, I would also say that generally Krishna's devotees are poor, and this is discussed in the 10th canto Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj asked Shukadeva Goswami, how is it that we see that Krishna is so rich? He's the husband of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, and yet his devotees tend to be quite poor, whereas Shiva, he doesn't even have a house. He doesn't even have a house, and yet all of Shiva's devotees are like super rich. So it doesn't make any sense. Krishna's rich, his devotees are poor. Shiva's poor, and his devotees are rich. So he was asking how to reconcile that. So it's said that Krishna loves his devotees, so he doesn't want them to get entangled in the material world and Maya. And what is one of the main ways that we get entangled in the material world is because of money. So Krishna doesn't want his devotees to get sidetracked by becoming greedy for money and everything like that. So he purposefully keeps them, that they have enough. You know, it's not that they don't even have enough. They have enough, but nothing extra. So quite often you'll see that devotees have enough, especially enough food. I've never seen a devotee of Krishna that doesn't have enough food. I think the problem with Krishna's devotees, we have too much food. But might not have much extra. Yeah. Yeah. So,
But
whereas,
it's good to have a little bit extra, that so that you can help others, that, you know, for all the different
yes,
causes.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So there are exceptions to that, and the exceptions are if Krishna knows the heart of the devotee, if he sees we're mature enough in our Krishna consciousness to handle that extra wealth and use it for a good purpose, like to spread Krishna consciousness, then he may give it. And Prabhupada mentions that he went to America with 40 rupees, right? 10 years later, he had 40 crores. Did you get that? 40 rupees to 40 crores. So usually that never happens to anyone in 10 years. But Krishna gave all that incredible wealth, and not only the wealth, but so many followers, like, 10,000 disciples, 108 temples around the world, farms, restaurants, so much real estate, properties, everything, a book trust, his own book publishing trust, everything. So Krishna gave him so much because he was using it, in Krishna's service. But if he thinks we're going to get entangled in Maya, then he keeps us, no, material facilities, or very less like that. Whereas if you worship the demigods, they're not considering that. Is this money going to be good for you or bad for you? So if you're worshiping Ganesh or Shiva or whatever, and you ask for, crores or whatever, they might just give it. And they're not considering that it's going to make you crazy like that and you're going to suffer, because of that. But Krishna's so loving to his devotees, he doesn't like to give them anything that's going to cause them, future distress like that. And if the devotees are in, a difficult position and then they cry out to Krishna, that's very good. So sometimes you see that sometimes Krishna's devotees might be in some material difficulties, but because of that, then they take shelter of Krishna more. So that's very good. That's very good. We see that after India, the number 2 amount of Vaishnava devotees of the Lord are in Russia. And that started off from when it was a very difficult time during the communist time in Russia, where there was so much oppression and suppression and, so many difficulties. But because of all those difficulties, a lot of people became very serious in Krishna consciousness, so serious, like that. So I was talking about how often, we can become comfortable if you have a lot of knowledge and you become happy, but they didn't have any comfort. They were in a difficult position, and that was very good for their accelerating in Krishna consciousness, and many became very serious devotees like that. So yes, there's a saying, every cloud has a silver lining. So sometimes what might seem to be a very bad thing turns out to be something very good. Like Deepa mentioned, she had a car accident, but the result of that was that she came to Krishna consciousness. That Gulshan had cancer, but the result of that was that he came to Krishna consciousness. I was just plain confused and lost, and I came to Krishna consciousness, so like that. And like that. So we all have some difficulties, some problems with it, but the result was that we came to Krishna consciousness. You don't see many people that all their desires are completely fulfilled and they're completely happy and they come to Krishna consciousness. You don't see those kind of people. If you're feeling materially satisfied and happy, generally you're not going to become Krishna conscious like that. You're too entangled in Maya like that. So yes, Sudama went there to Dwarka, and he was just so happy to see Krishna that he even forgot to ask for anything. And Krishna, when he came, Krishna said, "Oh, do you have anything for me?"
He was
Because he didn't.
that.
He was embarrassed. He was embarrassed to give the chip rice, was not good enough. So he's, no, I don't have anything. And then what's that you're carrying around your waist? And then he just grabbed it. And it said that he took one mouthful of that very low quality rice. And then he went to take a second mouthful, and Rukmini stopped him.
For the third one.
He said, yeah, for the third one. She said, if you take any more from him, I don't have enough wealth to pay him back. Because she's obliged, goddess of fortune, Lakshmi is obliged to reciprocate with whatever the devotee gives to the Lord, give back. So she was saying, with all my wealth, I don't have enough if you take from him, like 3 times like that. So that was very touching. And but yeah, he even forgot. He was just so satisfied to see Krishna. He forgot to ask, can you give us some wealth or anything like that? So he went back home without even asking for anything. But when he went back home, he couldn't find his home because his little shack wasn't there anymore. There was a huge palace where his shack used to be. And then he couldn't find his wife because this skinny old lady with rags was become a beautiful young, like Lakshmi personified like that. And so Krishna and Lakshmi just gave him so much. And then the most interesting thing I find is that at that time is when he could have become proud, right? He had a beautiful wife, so much wealth, beautiful house. He had like maid servants. He had people serving him hand and foot. He could have become proud, but it said he never became proud. And he remembered that all this is the mercy of my dear friend Krishna. It's all his prasadam. It's his mercy. I don't deserve this. This is just his caused this mercy to me, and I'm going to use it in Krishna's service. So he didn't get intoxicated or puffed up with all of that material opulence. And that's why Krishna gave it to him, because he knew that he could handle it without getting proud, like that. So we really don't have to worry about anything. If we're in a, sort of low economic position, that's perfect for where we're at. And in future, if we become a bit more mature or whatever, Krishna may load us up with more things, with the idea that we can use that to help, other people and help spread Krishna consciousness and like that. So there's no need to be in any anxiety. Or the only thing we should be in anxiety about is that, I'm not Krishna conscious enough. Let me become more Krishna conscious. So we should never be satisfied with the level of Krishna consciousness we have now. We're always trying to improve, our Krishna consciousness, try to become a better devotee as much as we can, and materially be very satisfied. There's one saying by one, the greatest thinker in Indian history, Chanakya Pandit, great Brahmana, great scholar. So one of his verses, slokas, says that you should be satisfied with 3 things, and you should not be satisfied with 3 things. So satisfied with one's wife. So whatever the partner we have, we should be satisfied with that partner, not thinking, oh, I wish I had a different partner like that. So be satisfied with the partner we have. Be satisfied with the what is that? How does the verse go, Striya? The other, be satisfied with the wealth that we have. Oh, yes, and the food that we have, yeah. So be satisfied with the partner we have, the food that we have, and the wealth that we have. And we should not be satisfied, so materially. So you're satisfied, whatever you have. And 3 things, not be satisfied with the japa that we do. Should not be satisfied with the jap. I need to chant either better quality or better quantity, more quantity, or both. But when not good enough. Either I'm not chanting enough, or I'm not concentrating enough. I need to concentrate more or chant more or whatever. And then not satisfied with the studying I'm doing of the scriptures, with my scriptural study. I'm not satisfied with that. I should read more and, absorb it more and all this kind of thing. And not satisfied with the amount of charity that I give. So that I should give more, whether it's give more prasadam to people or give more knowledge to people or go out chanting. Actually, I was returning from Auckland yesterday, and I took the mridanga drum with me because I had a little program in Auckland. So I had the drum in the car, and I passed by this town that's quite infamous in this area. Is like people are really suffering. It's called Kaikohe. There's a lot of really poor people there, a lot of crime. I've never seen so many police cars going up and down the street in my life. That's not a good sign if you see a lot of police cars. And there was sirens going, and oh my God, it was a freaky place. I knew I was going past this town because Gianty had told me there's a shortcut to get from Auckland to our home, and that's going right through Kaikohe. So it was the first time I'd gone through this place in many years. So I decided to stop there and do Harinam. So I did a one man Harinam, and it was amazing. People were really enjoying it, and even there was this one mother with her little kid, must have been like 4 or 5 years old. And the kid was like jumping up and down in ecstasy. I couldn't believe it. This like 4 or 5-year-old was just jumping up and down when I walked past. It was amazing. And this one Indian guy comes out of a restaurant and goes, Radhe, 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 Radhe. And Bunky Bihari Lal, Bunky Bihari Lal. That's one of the deities in Vrindavan like that. So that was good. And then these Maoris were saying, well, I said, there's something about this music. It's really good. What's the word for it? And I said, I sort of prompted him, soothing. He said, yeah, it's really soothing. I said, peaceful. Yeah, I said, peaceful, like that. He said it's a lot better than that sound over there. So he was pointing towards where the police car had stopped and, the sirens were going. He said, it's a lot better than that sound over there. And he said, oh, wow, this is really good. And these other guys are coming and shaking my hand and everything like that. It was Krishna really reciprocated a lot through these people, and it was really nice.
Prabhu, you need to go and get some programs with the police and teach them how to do this. They'll have more success.
They'll have more success, yeah. Actually, in Prabhupada's time, he was getting, police and that coming up to him because he was getting more people off LSD, which was the big problem then. Now it's like meth, meth and all these different drugs they have now. But then it was like LSD, right? So Prabhupada was getting more of these hippies off LSD than the police could get off, so that he had greater success at getting people off drugs like that. So there was a lot of people interested in, how do you do it, Swamiji? How are you getting these people to stop all their bad habits, like that? So definitely it can work. Definitely it can work. So yeah, I was thinking, I have to do more. I have to go out and do more Harinams and things like that. Not be satisfied that, I've got a good life here in the country, got all our own fruits, organic fruits, and we have a nice place and everything. It's nice and safe and peaceful and everything. No, we have to get out there and try to help other people. Yeah, so that's the thing. Okay, so let's read the verse.
We haven't been
21.
out for a long time either, have we, Gulshan?
Wait.
Out on Harinam.
No, we haven't.
We haven't. I think it was. Remember, we went. It was a New Year's Eve or something, wasn't it?
It
It was
was.
a couple of years ago now. Gulshan was up on the chair in Hamilton. It was like he was everywhere.
Up on the
Jumping
chair, what do you mean?
Yeah, up on like a chair on the side of the road, like jumping
yeah.
up and down. It was
That's
pretty
nice.
ecstatic.
An
Yeah.
ecstasy, an
Oh,
ecstasy.
that was a few years ago now.
Nice, nice.
Haven't done
Yeah.
it for a long time.
Yeah. The sky's the limit. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, text 21. So this is a different meter than a lot of the other ones we've done. Ketam bhuktva swagam lokam vishalam.
Tetam bhukva sagam lokam vishalam.
Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti.
Hine punye madhyalokam vishante.
Evam trayi dharma manu prapana.
Evam trayi dharma manu prapana.
Gata gatam kama kama labhante.
Gata gatam kama kama labhante.
Good.
When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the result of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to the mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to principles of the three Vedas achieve only the fated birth and the death.
Mm. So there you go. This is the problem of going to heaven. Oh, yes, let's go to heaven. It'll be so enjoyable there. Beautiful women. Remember, I talked about last week Apsaras, Gandharvas. Apsaras are the dancers, and Gandharvas are the singers. And you get Somaras, which is like a heavenly intoxication, makes you feel invincible. And, amazing food. They only eat food cooked in ghee. First class food. Basically everything's deep fried and they can digest it.
It's
And,
like a
this,
sense enjoyment, isn't it? Sense
what's that?
enjoyment. Everything is a sense enjoyment.
It's all sense enjoyment. However, I would say it's pious sense enjoyment. There's no meat eating there, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. So they're following the rules. So they're enjoying their senses, but according to God's rules. So that's the difference. Like on earth, we try to enjoy our senses against God's rules, but there they do it following God's rules. And because they follow God's rules, they really do enjoy. Whereas we don't care about God's rules. And even though we're trying to enjoy, we end up suffering because we're not following the rules, like that. So although it's, people get inspired to go there, it's going to be really enjoyable. But what they don't realize is this verse, that it's going to come to an end. It's going to come to an end. And the same thing here on earth. We think, I got all this money, I got a nice family, I've got so much, good education, good job, good car, good house, pets, and blah, 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 life insurance, house insurance, everything. But we don't realize it's all going to come to an end. It's all going to come to an end. When Yudhisthira was asked by a yaksha that controlled a lake, that all his brothers had gone there to drink water and they all died. And then this yaksha that was controlling the lake, yakshas, they're devotees, followers of Kuvera, the god of wealth. And he said, before you drink it, you have to answer my questions. So Yudhisthira answered his questions. And the one question was, what is the most amazing thing in this world? And Yudhisthira replied, the most amazing thing is that although we see death taking a place around us every moment, every day, but we think we're never going to die. Isn't that amazing? How does that work?
Yeah.
That's amazing. How do we think like that?
I was thinking, like, I heard that a lot of people, oh, such and such got a cancer, such and such got a cancer, and I never think that I'm gonna get one.
I know. Isn't that
Yeah.
amazing? How does
Yeah.
that work? We're just completely in illusion that we never think that it's going to happen to me. Although we see it happening around us. My grandparents died, my parents died, the friends are dying, everyone's dying, like the animals are dying. Like here on the farm, I see death every day. Some bugs are dying, some birds, some possum, blah, blah, blah. The plants are dying, everything's dying, but I think I'm not going to die, so
So
we
scary.
live like we're
Death
never
is
going to die. Hey?
If you talk about the death to somebody, they're so scared. They don't want to talk about it. I said, that's
Yeah,
the
no
only
one
truth.
talks about it. Yeah, no one wants to talk about it.
Truth.
Yeah.
Not wanting to talk is one thing. They get angry that you are even suggesting that they are going to die.
Yeah. That's one of the things I found really cool when I was 20 years old and I met the Hare Krishnas. They're always talking about death. And I thought I was fascinating because no one ever talked about it before. And these guys, they not only they talk about it, but they know what it is. They know that you don't really die. And that's why they don't have any problem, devotees don't have a problem talking about it, because they know that when the body dies, we don't die. Like the Gita says, it's just a change of dress. We can even look at that in the second chapter. I think it's around 20 in the early 20s. It's Krishna talks about it just like changing your clothes. Death is just like changing your clothes. It's look in the second chapter in the mid-20s, or maybe, yeah. Here it is, 22. Second chapter, 22.
As a person puts on new garments, giving up old one, the soul similarly accepts new material body, giving up the old and useless one.
So I started hearing this stuff from the devotees and realizing, oh, there's nothing really to be afraid about. There's nothing to worry about. It's just like changing garments. And look at like the next one. All these verses are about, that you don't die when the body dies. Look at what the next one, 23. The soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by wind. And the next one is individual souls unbreakable, insoluble, can neither be burned or dried, everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same.
But
It's
why
like that.
For death? Like everybody die, like scared, like if the death
Yeah,
comes,
it's because of ignorance, the lack of knowledge. It's only because of ignorance. If you have knowledge, you won't be afraid at all. And look at text 20. This is one of my favorites. I learned this verse. Najayate mriyate va karachinnayam budva vavida vanavaya ajo nitya shashvato yam purano nanyate hanyamane sharire. One of the ladies like to read it? English.
For the soul, yeah, you
for
go,
this-
Deepa.
Go for it, Bhaktimala. You're better off reading it because I don't have my glasses with me.
But for the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
So that just shreds off all your worries, all your anxieties just by hearing like this. And this is coming from God himself. So it's the truth. It's not just some guy spouting some BS. This is the absolute truth. It's not just someone's belief. This is the fact. And this, when it says has not come into being, does not come into being, will not come into being, means we've got no past, no present, no future. Because we're eternal, there's no past, present, or future. Past, present, or future only exists for something that's temporary, right? So everything in the material world has a past, present, and future. But the soul has no past, present, or future because we're eternal, right? only within the parameter of time do you have a past, present, and future. But we're beyond time. You understand that? So then there's nothing to worry about, you know. So I loved it. These Hare Krishna people always talking about death and everything like that, and they're not worried about it and like that. It's just really cool.
I think you're
great.
one of the what's that? Those people, the goths. You're sounding a bit gothic.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're the differences. They're depressed. That's why they
Yeah.
always wear black. So because of their, you know, also, you know, thinking about death, they've gone down the path of becoming depressed. That, well, it's all temporary. We're all just going to die, and then that's it. And there's no point. There's no purpose. You know, just no point working or doing anything. We'll just walk around with our head down like that. And you see, Prabhupada, when he walked around, how did he carry his head? Up,
Like this,
looking up. Whereas the Goths, their head is like down at the ground. Whereas Prabhupada was always like up and into Vaikuntha. Into Vaikuntha.
I tell you what, though, you know, death, the concept of death itself might not be scary, but at the moment in my class, because I'm doing health and leisure and aged care, we're doing a unit on dementia.
Yeah.
Now, the thought of getting dementia is a pretty scary thought because you forget everything. So
Yeah.
that's, you know, that's pretty scary to think, what if I got dementia? What if I forgot Krishna? You know, because a lot of them are just sitting there and they don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. They don't know what they're doing. They can't, in the end, they can't even feed themselves, you know.
But she remember Krishna very well. My mom, she doesn't remember that. I did call you, can't remember. And then say something, you can't remember. But she remember the Bhagavad and the Krishna. Oh, without even like, you know, close the eyes and she can do prayer, everything, first thing in the morning. Now, you cannot forget Krishna. Even in dementia, you maybe forget your brother, sister, but you wouldn't believe me.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, there's this brilliant pastime in South India with one great Acharya, Ramanujacharya. He was around over 1,000 years ago. And he was such a great devotee. He was talking to the deity. And so great that the deity would talk back to him. Because, I mean, everyone can talk to the deity, right? But you don't often get it, the deity talks back to you. So he asked the deity a question. He said, "My Lord, what will happen to your devotee at the time of his death if he does not remember you?" And there was silence for a short time. And then the deity, Rangana, spoke back to him and said, "If my devotee does not remember me at the time of his death, then I will remember my devotee." Haribol.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
So there's nothing to worry about because, you know, like you're saying, our memory is not guaranteed. Maybe you'll remember him, maybe you won't. There's no 50-50 or whatever. But his memory is 100%.
Yeah.
Krishna never gets dementia or Alzheimer's or anything. So, you know, there's no worry from that point of view. So all we should be trying to do some service in your life when you do have a good brain and a good body and everything. Do some service then. And Krishna will look back to you in your life. And I remember when Gulshan got up on that bench and went Hare Krishna, you know, in front of the public on New Year's Eve in 2021. He got up on the bench and said Hare Krishna. So Krishna will remember that and give credit, you know, for that service that we do. It's said that even if someone chants Hare Krishna once in their life, Krishna will give them credit for that, and they'll start off in their next life in a better position, you know, from where they continue on from where they left off in this life. So that's why it says, if you can look at that verse 2, second chapter again, text 40. That's saying on this path, there's no loss, there's no diminution, and a little advancement protects one from the greatest fear.
In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from most dangerous type of fear.
So what is the most dangerous kind of fear? And that is that after the human life, the soul goes back down in the lower species of life. So that's what we should be afraid of, going back down to the lower species of life. And that fear, you can deal with that fear just by a little bit of Krishna consciousness. Because definitely if you've practiced even a little bit of Krishna consciousness, means you've had prasadam and you've come in contact with Prabhupada's books and the philosophy, you've chanted Hare Krishna or heard other people chant Hare Krishna, then you won't go down. The minimum you're going to get is another human life and continue on Krishna consciousness. Or if you're even more fortunate, then you'll go back to Godhead, or up to heavenly planets, and then maximum back to Godhead. But the minimum you're going to get is another human life where you can practice Krishna consciousness again, but you're not going to be going down the lower species. So there's nothing to lose, really. It's all positive. There's one of my favorite verses in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is what we discuss on Saturdays, such a nectar literature, that is saying there, one verse says that Eka Krishna Namakare Sava Papakshaya Jiva Sparshe Achandala Sabare Udare. So what that means is Ek Krishna Nam. If the person just says one name of Krishna, Sava Papakshaya, all their pap, all their sins, kshaya means completely destroyed, right? Jiva Sparshe Achandala. So the lowest person in Vedic culture is called a Chandala. That means a dog eater. Someone, according to Vedic culture, a person that eats dogs, habituated eating dogs, is the most lowest kind of person in society. Very filthy habits and everything. Because a dog eats all kind of stuff. Anyone that has a dog knows that. So you eat the dog means you're eating all kinds of rubbish. So, but it says, if that holy name comes on their tongue, Jiva Sparshe. Jiva is the tongue. Sparshe means the sound. So if the sound of the Lord's name comes on the tongue of even a Chandala, Sabare Udare, all of them are delivered. All of them. All the Chandalas get liberated. They're all delivered back to Godhead. Just if it's once, Ek Krishna Nam. Forget about 16 rounds a day for so many years, but just one name of Krishna comes on their tongue. It's said that the same benefit you get by chanting 1,000 names of Vishnu. We have the one literature, the Vishnu Sahasranama, so 1,000 names of Vishnu. You get that benefit by chanting one name of Ram. One name of Ram is as powerful as chanting 1,000 names of Vishnu. And the benefit you get of chanting 3 names of Rama, you get just by chanting one name, Krishna. So Krishna's name is the most powerful name. So even the lowest person chants Krishna's name, then they get delivered. Yeah. And so yeah, nothing to worry about if you come to the path of Krishna consciousness. A devotee should only be worried about what? There is something to worry about. But what is that? Not about ourselves. We shouldn't have anything to worry about. But we worry about others, that they've never had this one name on their tongue. They've never heard this one name. They've never had the prasadam from Krishna. They've never received a book about Krishna, the Bhagavad Gita or anything. We should be worried about them. What's their future? They're going to become, dogs and pigs and cockroaches and worms and cows and be slaughtered and everything like that. So We have to, we should never be satisfied and try to always help more
We had a
people.
lady, she just had
Huh?
a one meal. Well, she lady came and she had a one meal and she paid for two. And she said that give it one for deserving. And then I put that little note there. But then where can we find the deserving? Like, homeless people, someone who come, they don't come inside the restaurant. How do I find it? And I was thinking, and the lady, she paid for two, and then she had one, and then she gone. And
Oh,
then
yeah, nice.
they used to come to my cafe as well. They take one coffee and one for the deserving.
Okay.
And then I was looking for it. And then I said, what do I have to do? How do I find the deserving? Should I go and ask any homeless or anyone look deserving? Do you want a meal? And I don't know what to do. And there was a one man, he was like not mentally stable, but he walks. I've seen him for last, I don't know, 5, 7, 10 years. He goes to the fish and chip shop or further, or goes to 7-Eleven. Just, I can see that he's going. But by his walk and look, I think he's mentally disturbed. And I said, I wish I can offer him. But chef said, just careful, man, because these kind of people, they don't know what they are. He might, hit you or something like that, or, how they're going to take it. And I was looking at him and he just come inside.
Wow.
And he's looking at a drink shelf. I said, do you want some rice and curry? He says, he like these people, they respond after 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then after 30 seconds, he said yes. And I just give him a rice and curry and I just throw that little piece of paper for the meal. The lady paid that. But then he said that I want to donate. I said, okay. And he put the $5 in the donation box. I said,
Wow.
thank you.
Cool. Nice.
Now he comes every day and buy the cheesecake and sometimes curry, sometimes rice. And he buys
Wow.
that.
Cool.
It
There you
was
go.
meant to be.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a success story. So
It
that's
is.
the thing, to
Yeah.
spread Krishna consciousness, like what you mentioned, you have to take some risk. Like you
Yeah.
were told, be careful, you don't know
Yeah.
what he might do. So like that, when you reach out to non-devotees, you don't know what they might do. But
One
so
boy
there's some risk there.
with me,
But this is particularly why the devotee that works hard to spread Krishna consciousness is especially dear to Krishna and makes special amount of advancement because they are taking more risk. And Krishna knows that you're taking all that risk to meet these people that are in, ignorance and passion, their, bad mentality, but you're taking that risk to meet them and try to help them inject Krishna consciousness. So you get special blessings, special mercy by doing like Lord Nityananda, took all that risk with Jagai and Madai to help those two drunkards. And, Lord Chaitanya was so pleased with him. Haridas Thakur, Nityananda is trying to, preach to Jagai and Madai and others like that. So, and that's why the preacher is very dear to the Lord, because they take so much risk. They take much to meet all these difficult people like that. But then Krishna is reciprocating. Like now he's coming and paying money to buy cheesecakes and curries and stuff. That's amazing.
For 5, 7 days, never came in.
Yeah.
And one day I just looks at a glance and he just come in. I said, oh my God. And then I wanted to give him like a free meal. The lady, I said, this is the perfect man. How to give it a free meal. And I give him, and he was saying, is it free? I said, yes, rice and curry. And I said that I have to be careful. What happens if he comes every day?
Oh, come on. Yeah,
But
don't worry about all that.
Then I'll be
imagine Prabhupada, what risk he took. It just reminded me of Prabhupada's journey.
It said in the beginning where he lived in the Lower East Side in New York, he would often have to walk over the body of a sleeping drunk in his doorway. Can you imagine what kind of life that was? He'd come from Vrindavan, like the land of saints, and then he's having to walk over a drunk just to get out of his house. Like that is completely crazy. One time, he was chased out of his room he was renting by some crazy intoxicated hippie, like ran after him, and Prabhupada had to run away, and he had to even left his possessions in there. He didn't have time to pick up his possessions, and he ran for his life, So But Krishna is so pleased, you know, when we take these risks to try to help people.
Well,
Of
like
course,
this
he was protected.
Brett will say, what are you doing? If he comes every day, I'll give a free meal, you know, like Jayanti, you know, Jayashri Mataji will say, man, you've been sacked. What are you doing here? This is a restaurant. I was scared, but thank God, next time he comes there, he gives $5, $10, something, and
Yeah,
gets some.
so there's no, that's the thing. You never lose by giving. See, materially, we think if I give this away, I'm going to lose. But spiritually, that doesn't work like that. Spiritually, the more you give, the more you get back.
But one guy
100%.
was collecting the cigarettes on the ground. I offer him. He was so angry with me. I said, would you like some rice and curry? He said, no. Like the way he said that, how dare you offer me rice and curry? And he's got no shirt, and like, you know, the pants were just going down. You can see the bum crack, and, you know, bending down, collecting the cigarette. And then one day I offer him, and he was so angry. What do you think? I'm homeless. I said, you are. Look at it. Look at you. Of course, you're collecting leftover cigarettes and you got no shirt, and like, you know, of course you are like, but I didn't say that. I said,
Yeah.
no, it's just one of, no, he's so angry and he walk away. He doesn't come to collect the cigarette anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
I said, look, you know, he will have a prasadam. Maybe
Yeah.
this life.
So there's no guarantee, of course, how the person will react. But the thing is, you have to try. You know, Krishna will be pleased either way.
Yeah.
So whether the person reacts positively or negatively, Krishna's still pleased because you tried. Like
Even
Krishna also says here to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, that success or failure doesn't matter. You just have to do your duty. You just do your duty. Krishna's telling us, go out and spread Krishna consciousness. So that's your duty to do that. And whether you make 100 devotees or no devotees, it doesn't matter. Or people love you or hate you, it doesn't matter. But Krishna's definitely pleased because you're doing that to please him. And that's automatically a success. You know, it doesn't matter what the results are like that. But oh, that's wonderful. That's really good.
Yeah. Even dogs
really
comes
good.
there. Anyone come with a dog, I give a little bit of prasad to the dog. Because the next time
Well,
then he will come.
What came to my mind when you were saying that, you know, that he'd never come in the door for all those years and suddenly comes in the door. But that was, I'll tell you how that happened. You had that desire that
Yes.
I want to give prasadam to this person. And I'll tell you what happened. Krishna's in his heart. And normally Krishna in the heart does not interfere with that soul's desires. Hang on. Let me say something you say. So Krishna normally does not interfere with that soul's free choice. But if a devotee like Gulshan, who's also talking with his super soul, says, I wish that person would come in to get prasadam, then the super soul in their heart will influence them to come inside. If you have a strong desire.
But I think,
and that's what happened. So then, you desired he'd come in, and then he came in.
If the lady doesn't leave that one free prasadam, I wouldn't approach him. I would not, because he was going 7-8 years. I would never approach him. Lady left that leave one free prasadam. That's what I was thinking. So you start from the lady. You have to take one step back.
So that lady was probably your guru in your last life.
Yeah, first time I seen her, and she came, and then she got one, and then said, "This is the one." I said, "Yeah, I know that, because a lot of people in the cafe, they come have one coffee, one for the deserving. They leave it there a lot." Yeah. So it's a trend start from France, like in Europe. Now it's in Australia as well. So whoever deserving, we can give it them to. So first time happening for last 7, 8, 10 years. Nobody say, okay, one free prasadam for deserving. First time happened. I said, okay, thank you. And I was keep looking that. And then I said, oh, well, that'll be the right person. Because I said, where am I going to find this homeless? Because they're not coming to the restaurant. But okay, everything is good. Now he's the regular customer.
But yeah, I mean, also don't think just homeless are deserving, because I mean, everyone is deserving Krishna consciousness, you know. So actually, we feel more sorry for the rich people, because in fact they're further away from Krishna consciousness often than the poor people. Poor people often, like when I went to this Kaikowi, they're very poor people, but they're so receptive to Krishna consciousness. I feel that the rich people are more unfortunate. So They're the really deserving ones. They really need it. They really need it. Mm. So yeah, don't just be on the lookout for those that you think are completely poverty stricken. Actually, spiritually, everyone's poverty stricken. You understand? Anyone that's without Christian, any love for God. I mean, if they have love for Allah or Jehovah or whatever, that's good. That's those people that don't have any love for God, no religion, no love for God. It's just fully materialistic. They're all poverty stricken like that. Don't just think those that have no money in the bank are in a bad situation. The bad situation, like I said, they've never chanted the holy name, they've never had prasad, never taken a book. They're poverty stricken like that.
Gulshan, if anyone else leaves a free meal like that, please give one to Jayashree Mataji and one to Pratapana. I think
This is
if I come and I leave, please do that for me.
whoever leaves that. And yeah, there's a one day, like one customer, he comes like a regular. He works around there, like Monday to Friday, he come 1 or 2 days. And then he came yesterday. He bought a chanting bead and a bag. And I was just look at him.
Nice. Wow.
He was a Westerner, young, like maybe 30, 35. And then he said, "Man, do you know what it is?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Did you ever chant?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Where's your chanting bead and bag?" He said, "I left in Sydney." I said, "Okay." Then he bought, and I said, "Okay, well, what are you chanting at?" Like, I just want to say, like, he just out of blue, and like, he said, I said, "What are you chanting?" He said, "Mahamantra." Oh, I just thought,
Yeah.
I was just like, blunt. And I said, "Have you heard about this Bhagavad Gita?" He said, "I've got a copy at home." I said, "Okay." Now my way of looking perception has been changed. I was just.
I know you have to be careful. See, don't
Yes.
judge anyone externally.
Yes.
That's another
Ask
lesson.
question. Yeah, I just ask question. He never ever come across with. He doesn't talk to me about Hare Krishna. Nothing. He just come and eat and go. I said,
Yeah.
okay. The customer, like, they comes like Monday to Friday. They work around there, and they comes 1 o'clock, eat and go, eat and go. He comes 1 or twice a week. Yeah, just regular customer. Yeah, okay, just, yeah, it's fine. Thank you. How you going? Good. Thank you. He never asked anything about Hare Krishna. He's got nothing. We never ever talked that years and years. But yesterday when he picked the beat, then I talk. Otherwise, I don't really. If somebody eating, I don't go and approach about Hare Krishna because
Sure. That's right. Not necessarily.
I shouldn't. So, but when he did, I talked, and I was so shocked and like, like you never know. I can't judge book by the cover. He just walking, just general
That's
person.
right. Yeah.
He doesn't have a shika and all that. Doesn't matter. But he's
Not
chanting.
necessary. Yeah.
That's right. He's chanting. That's
Wonderful.
it. Now
Yeah.
he's very good books.
Yeah.
In my.
So
He's
yeah,
a
always
devotee.
respect everyone. We don't know who's who and what level of Krishna consciousness they're on, and everyone's there to Krishna. Okay,
And
let's
then
just read the purport.
okay,
Bhaktivinoda said to go.
before.
Okay,
You want me to read?
one of you like to read the purport, and then we'll finish up.
One who is prompted to the higher planetary system enjoy a longer duration of the life and a better facilities for sense enjoyment, yet one is not allowed to stay there forever. One is again sent back to the earth upon finishing the results fruits of pious activities. He who has not attained perfection of knowledge, as indicated in Vedanta Sutra, or in other words, he who failed to understand Krishna, the cause of all cause, because baffled about achieving the ultimate goal of life and is thus subjected to the routine of being promoted to higher planets and then again coming down, as if situated on Ferris wheel, which sometimes goes up and sometimes comes down. The purport is that instead of being elevated to the spiritual world, from which there is no longer any possibility of coming down, one simply revolves in cycle of birth and death on a higher and a lower planetary system. one should better take to the spiritual world to enjoy an eternal life full of bliss and knowledge, and never return to this miserable material existence.
Mm. So it's a no-brainer, really. There's two options. Either you go back to Godhead and have eternal life there and never come back. So there's a difference there. If you go to the spiritual world, you never come back. Whereas if you go to heaven, it's only a short time you're there and then you come back. So which choice? You know, so it's a no-brainer. The best option is to go back to Godhead, never come back. So why do people want to go to heaven then? Why don't they choose going to the spiritual world? Because they don't know about it. They don't know about it. Like Prabhupada mentions, he who has not attained perfection of knowledge, as indicated in the Vedanta Sutra, or in other words, he who has failed to understand Krishna, cause of all causes, becomes baffled about achieving the ultimate goal of life, and is thus subjected to that continue to be promoted to the higher planets and then coming down. So that's because they don't have the knowledge. So that's our real enemy, is ignorance. So because of ignorance, then people think the best position is to be in heaven, and you can enjoy there like that. But that's actually very small knowledge they have. I mean, in Kali Yuga, we're so ignorant that we don't even know about heaven. Now 99.9% of the population forget about knowing about the spiritual world. We don't even know about heaven. We're just thinking that I want to become a millionaire or something here. You know, we just want a good position here on the earth. And that's only for a maximum of 100 years. At least on heaven, it's 10,000 years. And as we explained last week, 10,000 years there is multiplied by 180 Earth years. So it's 6 months here is 1 day there. 6 months there is 1 day here. So that's 180 times 10,000 of our years. That's how long they live there. But now in Kali Yuga, people are so stupid. We don't even know about heaven. Forget about we don't know about the spiritual world. We don't even know about heaven. We only trying to, you know, become the CEO of Microsoft or something, and we think that's where we've really made it. But then 100 years in that, and then you're kicked out and you become a cockroach in your next life in Siberia or something, you know, so it's really bad. You know, so, but it's just a matter of knowledge, you know. So ignorance is our worst enemy. And that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. You're receiving full knowledge, and then that's what we try to pass on to other people, full knowledge. And then you give people the knowledge, and then they've got to make the choice. Okay, do I want to go back to Godhead or I want to go to heaven? And if you have a brain, then obviously you'll want to go back to Godhead, because there's no comparison. You know, very, very temporarily you can be in heaven, or forever you can be in the spiritual world. You know, so it's the best option. So then, you know, take your pick. But that's what I felt when I was young. There was only one option: sex, drugs, rock and roll, eat, drink, and be merry. You know, it's just basic materialism. That was the only option. I was never given any option. Now I'm given so many options. You can be a materialist, enjoy your senses. You can go to heaven. You can become a impersonalist and merge into the spiritual light, the Brahmajyoti, or you can go back to Godhead. And then it's just up to me. What do I want to choose? Where do I want to go? Like that. Whereas before it was just one option, just one life, just try to enjoy it, whatever you can. And then it's just you're dead and that's it. But no, there's a lot more. If we have more knowledge, then there's a lot more different scenarios, different options like that. So yeah, Krishna here is also saying that, you know, that forget about going to heaven. It's nowhere near as good as coming back to the spiritual world. So Krishna's encouraging us to become pure devotees. He's encouraging us to become pure devotees and go back to Godhead and give up worshipping all kinds of other things. Of course, now in Kali Yuga, the number one worship is worship of money, as people worship money. But
in Mumbai, there was a top cricketer in that, like, you know, history of the Indian cricket. He has got a temple and his deity there, and people are worshipping that. Can you believe that?
Hmm.
The
Oh,
top cricketer,
yeah,
name is
yeah,
Sachin
yeah.
Tendulkar.
Yeah.
He's got a temple, and then somebody posted on the Facebook, and I've seen that, and people are praying that. And
Yeah, crazy.
Sachin
Yeah.
Tendulkar, top cricketer in his
Yeah.
history, lifetime in Indian cricket history. And then there's a temple, and people are praying that. I said, "Oh my Lord,
Hmm.
ignorance is like,
Yeah. Hmm.
I can't believe that." Anyway, that's their
Your
choice.
microphone's off, Deepa. Deepa, your microphone's off.
He built the temple, but is he the deity there? I mean,
Yeah, he's the deity, but he didn't build the temple. Everybody chip in to build the temple, and he's the one as the deity. But he's still alive, actually. He's not dead
that's
yet. Yeah.
oh, that's quite disappointing. Yeah.
It is disappointing, but if you go to Mumbai, you can see his temple, and people are praying. Can you believe that? How friends? Muda.
Some cricketer. They've made a temple for the cricketer.
Jayanti will know Sachin Tendulkar. You know him.
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I
know
know
of him.
him, but I
You
didn't.
know.
Yeah.
Yes,
But I
yes.
didn't know he had a temple. Oh my God.
That's really bad for his health, because it said if people worship you and you're still alive, then you get their bad karma. So that's not good for him.
That.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. But no, it's good to have more options. Good to have more options. So, Krishna's giving us all the options, and then he's giving us the free choice. Which option are you going to choose?
I still drive in an Uber every day. My favorite line is that to everyone there: whenever you lazy to cook, please come. $10,
Yes.
I guarantee you'll get a meal. $10,
Nice.
$12, $15. And every doctor say eat vegetable. That's what we sell, vegetable. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
And then the people smile and they took the little leaflet. Sometimes
Yeah.
they come, sometimes they don't.
Nice. But you're trying. That's good. That's nice.
Yeah, of course. I give it to everyone. It's in my car, Bhakti Tree. Yeah, anytime you
Yeah,
feel lazy to
just
cook, please.
that's your mission, to bring people to Jagannath. And when
Yeah,
they
it was like,
receive his smiling glance and his prasadam,
and they
then
come, and sometimes those who are my customer, they are become my passenger too. They say, "Hey, you Bhakti Tree, Uber?" I say, "Yeah, I do that too." And then they come more often, because they come only once or twice in a month. I said, "Come by." Yeah, all right, I'll try come tonight again. I said, "Okay." So just reminding. I said, put on the fridge magnet. Whenever you hungry or don't have anything, just come. You get a very free, fresh meal.
Nice, very nice.
But let's see. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Very good.
Very good. And
Well, lovely to be with you all again.
okay, thank you very
Time's up,
much.
unfortunately, but you all take care. Have a great week.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. He's obviously found something.